Sign the papers and get out of my house. Victoria Whitmore's voice was ice cold as she slid the documents across the mahogany desk. You have 1 hour to pack whatever cheap belongings you brought into this family and leave. Permanently. Lily stood in the center of that massive oak-paneled office, 6 months pregnant, her hand instinctively protective over her belly. The baby kicked, as if sensing the hostility radiating from the woman who was supposed to be her grandmother. Outside, rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Whitmore estate, a 15-bedroom mansion in Connecticut that had been in the family for 4 generations. You can't be serious, Lily whispered, though she'd known this moment was coming. She'd felt it building for weeks, seen it in Victoria's calculating eyes every time they passed in the hallway. I'm dead serious. Victoria didn't even look up from the legal documents spread before her. Her perfectly manicured nails tapped against the desk with methodical precision. You trapped my son into marriage with that pregnancy, thinking you'd secure your place in this family. But David is gone now, and you have no claim to anything. Not this house. Not the family business. Nothing. My name is Lily Chen, and 3 months ago I buried my husband. David Whitmore died in a car accident on a rainy Tuesday, exactly like this one. We'd been married for 2 years, together for 4. He was the love of my life, and I genuinely believed his mother had finally accepted me into the family. I was wrong. The Whitmores weren't just wealthy. They were Connecticut royalty. Old money. The kind that came with portraits of ancestors in gilded frames and a family crest on everything from the silverware to the driveway gates. David's father had died when he was 10, leaving Victoria to run Whitmore Industries, a manufacturing company worth over $200 million. She'd built an empire, and she protected it like a dragon guarding treasure. I met David at a charity auction 4 years ago. I was there as a volunteer coordinator. He was there because his mother forced him to attend. We talked for 3 hours straight, hiding in a corner while the wealthy elite bid obscene amounts on golf vacations and wine collections. He was different from what I expected, kind, funny, genuinely interested in my work with nonprofits. He didn't lead with his last name or his bank account. He just wanted to talk about books and travel and whether pineapple belonged on pizza. My son made a mistake, Victoria continued, finally looking up at Lily with those sharp, cruel eyes. He married beneath himself. A girl from nowhere, with no family, no connections, no value to offer this family except a pregnancy that may not even be legitimate. Lily's hands trembled, but not from fear. From rage. How dare you suggest? I dare because I can. Victoria stood, walking around the desk with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no in her entire life. She was 62 but looked 50. Thanks to expensive procedures and a personal trainer who came to the house 6 days a week. Her gray suit probably cost more than Lily had earned in a year before marrying David. You think because you married my son, you're entitled to live in this house? To raise your child here? To inherit anything from this family? She laughed, a sound like breaking glass. David's will hasn't been probated yet. And when it is, you'll find he left everything to a trust, managed by me. You'll get a small monthly allowance, barely enough to rent a studio apartment somewhere. The prenuptial agreement you signed ensures that. Did you even read it before you scribbled your name? Desperate to lock him down? Lily had read it, every word. And she'd also had a lawyer review it, quietly, without telling David. Because even then, 2 years ago, she'd sensed something was wrong. The way Victoria watched her during family dinners. The comments about Lily's background, always phrased as questions. Where did you say your parents were from? What do your people do for holidays? Do you even understand how to manage a household of this size? The prenup says I'm entitled to half of everything acquired during the marriage, Lily said quietly, keeping her voice steady. Victoria smiled, and it was the cruelest expression Lily had ever seen. Yes, during the marriage. But this house predates your marriage by 30 years. The family business predates it by 90. David's trust fund, established when he was born, predates it by 32 years. His car collection, inherited from his father, predates it by 22 years. She ticked off each item on her fingers like she was reading a grocery list. You're entitled to half of nothing, sweetheart. Because he kept everything separate. Just like I taught him to. The rain grew heavier. Thunder rumbling in the distance. You planned this, Lily said, understanding flooding through her. Even before he died. You made sure I'd have nothing. I protected my family's legacy from a gold digger. Victoria walked to the window, hands clasped behind her back. David was weak when it came to you. He actually believed you loved him. He wanted to change his will, give you more, put your name on properties. I had to delay those processes. For the family's protection. Something in the way she said delay made Lily's blood run cold. The accident, Lily breathed. David said he needed to get the brakes checked. He'd been mentioning it for weeks. But you kept saying the family mechanic would handle it, not to take it to a regular shop. Careful. Victoria turned, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. Be very careful about what you're suggesting. They stared at each other across that enormous office, and Lily saw it clearly now. The calculation, the cold planning. Victoria hadn't just wanted Lily out of the family. She'd wanted David under control, and when he'd started to slip away from her influence, when he'd started putting his wife first. Get out of my house, Victoria said again. You have 1 hour. If you're still here after that, I'll have security remove you physically. And trust me, a pregnant woman making a scene won't look good when the custody evaluations begin. Custody? Victoria's smile widened. Did you think I'd let you raise a Whitmore heir alone? In poverty? With your questionable background? Once that baby is born, we'll see what the courts have to say about proper guardianship. I have the best lawyers in Connecticut. You have nothing. She walked to the door, pausing with her hand on the handle. David was weak, but his child doesn't have to be. I'll raise my grandchild properly, the way I should have raised David, and you'll be nothing but a sad footnote in this family's history. The gold digger who tried and failed. The door closed behind her with a soft click that sounded like a coffin lid. Lily stood there for a long moment, her hands pressed against her stomach, feeling her daughter kick and move inside her. Rain streaked down the windows, and somewhere in the house, she heard Victoria giving instructions to the staff about packing Lily's belongings. Then, slowly, Lily reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. She opened the recording app, pressed stop and looked at the timestamp. 43 minutes of conversation, every word captured in crystal clear audio. She'd been recording every interaction with Victoria for the past 2 months, ever since David's lawyer had quietly warned her that something wasn't right about the will situation. But that wasn't all she had. Lily walked to the desk and sat in Victoria's chair, pulling out the bottom drawer with the key David had given her months ago. Just in case, he'd said. My mother keeps certain documents in places she thinks are secret. Inside were folders. Bank statements showing unusual transfers. Correspondence with lawyers about handling the David situation. Emails about delayed maintenance on vehicles. And at the very bottom, a handwritten note in Victoria's distinctive script. Once the problem is resolved, adjust the trust documents immediately. The problem. That's what Victoria had called her son. Lily photographed everything with methodical precision, uploaded the images to 3 separate cloud accounts, and carefully returned the folders exactly as she'd found them. Then she stood, smoothed down her dress, and walked out of that office with her head held high. Victoria thought she'd won. Thought she'd destroyed everything Lily had, leaving her pregnant, alone, and powerless. But Victoria had made one critical mistake. She'd underestimated the quiet girl from nowhere who'd spent 4 years watching, learning, and preparing for the day when the mask would finally slip. If you're wondering how someone fights back against old money and unlimited power, stay with me. Because what happened next didn't just change Lily's life. It destroyed an empire. End of Block 1 character count. 8,847 characters with spaces. Wait, that's too long. Let me revise to stay under 6,000 characters. Block 1, revised. Under 6,000 characters. Sign the papers and get out of my house. Victoria. Whitmore's voice cut through the silence like a blade as she slid documents across the mahogany desk. You have 1 hour to pack your cheap belongings and leave. Permanently. Lily stood in that massive oak-paneled office, 6 months pregnant, hand protective over her belly. Rain hammered against the windows of the Connecticut estate, a mansion that had been in the Whitmore family for 4 generations. "You can't be serious," Lily whispered, though she'd sensed this coming for weeks. "Dead serious." Victoria didn't look up, her manicured nails tapping the desk. "You trapped my son into marriage with that pregnancy, thinking you'd secure your place here. But David is gone. And you have no claim to anything. Not this house. Not the business. Nothing. My name is Lily Chen, and 3 months ago, I buried my husband. David Whitmore died in a car accident on a rainy Tuesday exactly like this one. We'd been married 2 years, together for 4. He was my everything, and I believed his mother finally accepted me. I was catastrophically wrong. The Whitmores were Connecticut royalty. Old money. The kind with ancestor portraits in gilded frames and a family crest on everything. David's father died when he was 10, leaving Victoria to run Whitmore Industries, a manufacturing empire worth over $200 million. I met David at a charity auction 4 years ago. I was a volunteer coordinator. He was there because Victoria forced him. We hid in a corner for 3 hours while wealthy people bid on golf vacations, talking about books and whether pineapple belonged on pizza. He was kind, funny, real. He didn't lead with his last name or bank account. My son made a mistake, Victoria continued, finally meeting Lily's eyes. He married beneath himself. A nobody with no family, no connections, no value except a pregnancy that may not even be legitimate. Lily's hands trembled with rage, not fear. "How dare you?" "I dare because I can." Victoria stood, circling the desk with predatory confidence. At 62, she looked 50 thanks to expensive procedures and daily personal training. Her gray suit cost more than Lily had earned in a year before marriage. "You think marrying my son entitles you to live here? Raise your child in this house? Inherit our legacy?" Her laugh was cruel, brittle. "David's will hasn't been probated. When it is, you'll discover he left everything to a trust managed by me. You'll get a pittance, barely enough for a studio apartment. The prenup you signed ensures that. Did you even read it before scribbling your name? Desperate to trap him?" Lily had read every word. She'd also had a lawyer review it quietly, without telling David. Because even then, she'd sensed something wrong in how Victoria watched her during family dinners. The pointed comments about Lily's background, always phrased as questions. "Where did you say your people were from? Do you even understand managing a household this size?" "The prenup says I'm entitled to half of everything acquired during marriage," Lily said steadily. Victoria's smile turned vicious. "During marriage, yes. But this house predates your marriage by 30 years. The business by 90. David's trust, established at birth, by 32 years. She ticked items off like a shopping list. "You're entitled to half of nothing, sweetheart." He kept everything separate, exactly as I taught him. Thunder rumbled outside. "You planned this," Lily breathed. "Even before he died. I protected our legacy from a gold digger." Victoria moved to the window. "David was weak when it came to you. He actually believed you loved him. He wanted to change his will, put your name on properties. I had to delay those processes. For protection." The way she said delay made Lily's blood freeze. "The accident," Lily whispered. "David said he needed brake work. He mentioned it for weeks. But you insisted the family mechanic would handle it, not to use a regular shop. Careful." Victoria's voice dropped dangerously. "Very careful about what you're suggesting." Across that enormous office, Lily saw it clearly. The calculation. The cold planning. Victoria hadn't just wanted Lily gone. She'd wanted David controlled, and when he'd started putting his wife first. "Get out," Victoria repeated. 1 hour or security removes you physically. And a pregnant woman making scenes won't help during custody evaluations. Custody? You think I'd let you raise a Whitmore heir alone? In poverty? With your background? Victoria's smile widened. "Once that baby arrives, courts will decide proper guardianship. I have Connecticut's best lawyers." "You have nothing." She paused at the door. "David was weak, but his child doesn't have to be." I'll raise my grandchild properly. You'll be a sad footnote. The gold digger who failed. The door clicked shut like a coffin lid. Lily stood motionless, hands on her stomach as her daughter kicked. Rain streaked the windows. Somewhere, Victoria instructed staff about packing Lily's things. Then slowly, Lily pulled out her phone. She stopped the recording app. 43 minutes captured. Every word crystal clear. She'd been recording every interaction for 2 months since David's lawyer quietly warned her something was wrong. But that wasn't all. Lily sat in Victoria's chair, opening the bottom drawer with the key David gave her months ago. Just in case, he'd said. My mother keeps certain documents hidden. Inside were folders. Bank statements with suspicious transfers. Correspondence about handling the David situation. Emails regarding delayed vehicle maintenance. And at the bottom, Victoria's handwriting. Once the problem is resolved, adjust trust documents immediately. The problem. Her son. Lily photographed everything, uploaded to 3 cloud accounts, returned folders precisely as found. She stood, smoothed her dress, walked out with her head high. Victoria thought she'd won. Thought she'd left Lily pregnant, powerless, destroyed. But Victoria made one mistake. She underestimated the quiet girl from nowhere who'd spent 4 years watching, learning, preparing for when the mask finally slipped. If you're enjoying this story of how the powerless became powerful, don't forget to subscribe. Because what happened next didn't just change one life. It ended a dynasty. The Riverside Motel on Route 7 wasn't where Lily imagined spending her 3rd trimester. $79 a night, cigarette burns on the dresser, water stains on the ceiling that looked like storm clouds. The woman at the front desk hadn't even blinked when Lily checked in with 2 suitcases and tears streaming down her face. Weekly rate is cheaper, she'd said, snapping her gum. Checkout's at 11. That was 6 weeks ago. Lily had $4,200 in her personal checking account, money she'd saved from her nonprofit work before marrying David. Victoria had frozen all joint accounts within hours of kicking her out, claiming pending estate resolution. The family lawyer, a man named Richard Chen, who'd been with the Whitmores for 30 years, had called exactly once. Mrs. Whitmore, he'd said. And Lily noted he didn't specify which Mrs. Whitmore. I'm advising you to seek independent counsel. There are complications with the estate that I'm not at liberty to discuss. But you should protect yourself. Then he'd hung up. Lily spent the first week in shock, barely eating, watching daytime television in that motel room, while her daughter performed gymnastics inside her. The pregnancy book said stress was bad for the baby. Lily wondered if discovering your mother-in-law might have murdered your father qualified as stress. Week 2, she started making calls. David's college friends, people she'd met at dinner parties, anyone who might help. The responses were identical. Polite discomfort, vague promises to stay in touch, and immediate disconnection. Victoria had clearly spread her version of events through their social circle. The gold digger had been exposed and expelled. How unfortunate. How predictable. Monica Chen, Richard's daughter and one of Lily's few real friends from the charity circuit, was the only one who answered on the 3rd ring. Oh God, Lily, I heard. Are you okay? Where are you staying? Lily had broken down then, really broken down for the first time since leaving the estate. She told Monica everything, the recordings, the documents, the suspicions about David's accident. Jesus, Monica breathed. Lily, you need to go to the police. With what? Suspicions? A note that could mean anything? Victoria has connections everywhere in this state. Half the judges play golf with her. Then what are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? By week 3, Lily's money was dwindling. She'd applied for her old position at the nonprofit, but they'd filled it permanently after she'd resigned to focus on marriage. Other organizations weren't hiring or required experience she didn't have, or mysteriously had budget freezes after she submitted applications. She suspected Victoria's influence reached further than she'd imagined. The medical bills were piling up. Prenatal appointments cost money without insurance, and Victoria had immediately removed Lily from the family plan. The obstetrician's office called weekly, politely reminding her that she owed $1,847 for services rendered. Lily stared at the number and wondered how she'd afford delivery, let alone raising a child. Then, 4 weeks after her expulsion, Lily received a package at the motel. No return address. Inside was a flash drive and a handwritten note. David wanted you to have this. He knew something was wrong. Be careful. R.C. Richard Chen, David's family lawyer, risking his career to slip her evidence. Lily plugged the drive into her laptop with shaking hands. What she found made her stomach drop. Video files, dozens of them. David had installed cameras in his car months before the accident, small dash cams front and rear, after noticing his mother's mechanic had been servicing his vehicle without his knowledge. The footage showed everything. The mechanic working on the brake lines, Victoria standing in the garage doorway watching, conversations about making sure it looks natural. But that wasn't all. The drive also contained David's real will, the one he drafted with an independent lawyer 3 months before he died. In it, he left everything to Lily, revoked all trusts managed by Victoria, and included a detailed letter explaining his fears about his mother's controlling behavior and recent threats. If you're reading this, David had written, something has happened to me. And if my mother is contesting this will, she's behind it. Lily, I'm sorry I didn't protect you better. I should have stood up to her years ago. The documents you need are in my safety deposit box at First National, Box 847. The key is taped inside the old copy of East of Eden in my study. Use everything. Burn her empire down. Lily sat on that stained motel bed, 7 months pregnant, holding proof that her husband had been murdered and that she had the evidence to destroy the woman responsible. Her hands trembled as she called Monica back. I need a lawyer, Lily said. Not just any lawyer. I need someone who specializes in taking down powerful families. Someone who isn't afraid of the Whitmores. Monica was quiet for a long moment. There's someone. Elena Rodriguez. She made her name destroying a pharmaceutical dynasty in Massachusetts last year. But Lily, she's expensive. Like, retainer dash is -6 figures expensive. I'll figure it out. There's something else, Monica said carefully. My father wants to meet with you. Off the record. He says there are things about the Whitmore family that you need to know before you go to war. Things even David didn't know. The meeting happened 3 days later in a diner 40 miles from the Whitmore estate. Richard Chen looked 10 years older than when Lily had last seen him at David's funeral. His hands shook slightly as he stirred his coffee. I've worked for Victoria Whitmore for 30 years. He began. I've watched her do things that kept me awake at night. But I stayed because I was a coward, because she paid well, because I told myself I was just following orders. He pulled out a folder, thick with documents. Victoria has been systematically draining Whitmore Industries for years. The company is worth maybe $40 million now, not $200 million. She's been moving money offshore, into personal accounts, into shell companies. When the board finds out, she's facing federal charges, but she's planning to pin it on David posthumously. Claim he mismanaged funds before his death. Lily's jaw dropped. She's going to destroy her own son's reputation to cover her crimes? She already started spreading rumors that David was unstable, making poor business decisions. That's why she wanted you gone so quickly. You're a witness to his state of mind. You know he was competent, ethical. Your testimony could derail her entire defense. So this was never about me being a gold digger. Oh, she genuinely despises you, Richard said with brutal honesty. You're everything she's not. Kind, genuine, actually loved her son. But getting rid of you was primarily about protecting herself legally. David's death was convenient. Your expulsion was necessary. He pushed the folder across the table. Everything's in here. Financial records, emails, wire transfer receipts. I've been copying files for 2 years, ever since I realized what she was doing. I was going to go to the FBI, but then David died, and I got scared. But you're already fighting her, so use this. Destroy her before she destroys you and your daughter. Lily looked at the folder, then at Richard. Why are you helping me now? His eyes filled with tears. Because I watched that boy grow up. I was at his birthday parties, his graduation, his wedding. And I did nothing while his mother murdered him. I can't bring David back, but maybe I can make sure she pays for what she did. Maybe I can help protect his daughter." That night, Lily sat in her motel room surrounded by documents, flash drives, and evidence. She had recordings of Victoria confessing to expelling her. She had video evidence suggesting involvement in David's death. She had financial records proving massive fraud. She had David's real will. And she had nothing to lose. She called Elena Rodriguez's office and left a message. "My name is Lily Whitmore. I have evidence of murder, fraud, and corporate theft involving one of Connecticut's wealthiest families. I can't afford your retainer, but I can offer you 30% of whatever settlement or judgment we win. And I promise you this case will make headlines." Elena called back in 20 minutes. "I just looked up Victoria Whitmore," the lawyer said, and Lily could hear the smile in her voice. "I've wanted a shot at that family for years. Nobody's been able to touch them." "What makes you think you can?" "Because she thinks I'm nobody," Lily replied. "She thinks I'm powerless. And she has no idea what's coming. Send me everything you have. If it's half as good as you claim, I'll take your case." "And Mrs. Whitmore?" "Yes? We're going to enjoy this." Lily hung up and looked around her motel room. At the water-stained ceiling and cigarette-burned furniture. At the hospital bills stacked on the dresser. At her reflection in the grimy mirror, 7 months pregnant and exhausted. Victoria thought this was rock bottom. Thought she'd stripped away everything Lily had, leaving her broken and defeated. But Victoria had forgotten something crucial. People with nothing left to lose are the most dangerous kind of enemy. And Lily Chen was about to become a nightmare. Block 2 complete character count, 8,796 characters. Let me revise to get under 6,000 characters. Block R, revised under 6,000 characters. The Riverside Motel on Route 7 wasn't where Lily imagined her third trimester. $79 nightly, cigarette burns on the dresser, water stains resembling storm clouds. The desk clerk hadn't blinked when Lily checked in crying with 2 suitcases. Weekly rates cheaper. Checkouts at 11. That was 6 weeks ago. Lily had $4,200 in savings from her nonprofit work before marriage. Victoria froze all joint accounts within hours, claiming pending estate resolution. The family lawyer, Richard Chen, called once. "Mrs. Whitmore, seek independent counsel. There are complications I can't discuss. Protect yourself." Then he hung up. Week 1 was shock. Barely eating, watching daytime TV while her daughter performed gymnastics inside her. Week 2, she made calls. David's college friends, dinner party acquaintances, anyone who might help. Identical responses. Polite discomfort, vague promises, immediate disconnection. Victoria had spread her version through their social circle. The gold digger exposed. How predictable. Monica Chen, Richard's daughter and Lily's only real friend from charity work, answered on the 3rd ring. "Oh, God, Lily, I heard." "Are you okay?" Lily broke down then. Really broke down. Told Monica everything. Recordings, documents, suspicions about David's accident. "Jesus. Go to the police." "With what? Suspicions?" "Victoria has connections everywhere. Half the judges golf with her." "Then what will you do?" By week 3, money was vanishing. Her old nonprofit job was filled permanently. Other organizations weren't hiring or had mysterious budget freezes after her applications. Victoria's influence reached everywhere. Medical bills piled up. Prenatal appointments without insurance cost money. The obstetrician's office called weekly about $1,847 owed. Lily wondered how she'd afford delivery, let alone raising a child. 4 weeks after expulsion, a package arrived. No return address. Inside, a flash drive and handwritten note. "David wanted you to have this. He knew something was wrong. Be careful. R.C. Richard Chen, risking everything." Lily plugged in the drive with shaking hands. Video files, dozens. David had installed dash cams months before the accident, after noticing his mother's mechanic servicing his vehicle without permission. The footage showed everything. The mechanic working on brake lines, Victoria watching from the garage doorway, conversations about making it look natural. But there was more. David's real will, drafted with an independent lawyer 3 months before death. Everything left to Lily. All Victoria-managed trusts revoked. A detailed letter explaining fears about his mother's controlling behavior and recent threats. If you're reading this, something happened to me. If my mother contests this will, she's behind it. Lily, I'm sorry I didn't protect you. I should have stood up years ago. The documents you need are in my safety deposit box at First National. Box 847. The key is taped inside East of Eden in my study. Use everything. Burn her empire down. 7 months pregnant on a stained motel bed, holding proof her husband was murdered. She called Monica. I need a lawyer who specializes in destroying powerful families. Someone unafraid of the Whitmores. Monica paused. Elena Rodriguez. She demolished a pharmaceutical dynasty in Massachusetts. But Lily, her retainer is 6 figures. I'll figure it out. My father wants to meet you. Off record. He says there are things about the Whitmores you need to know before war. Things even David didn't know. 3 days later, a diner 40 miles away. Richard Chen looked a decade older. His hands shook stirring coffee. I've worked for Victoria 30 years, watched her do things that kept me awake nights. But I stayed because I was a coward, because she paid well, because I told myself I was just following orders. He pushed over a thick folder. Victoria's been systematically draining Whitmore Industries for years. The company's worth maybe $40 million now, not $200 million. She's moved money offshore into shell companies. When the board discovers this, she faces federal charges. She's planning to pin it on David posthumously. Claim he mismanaged funds. Lily's jaw dropped. She'd destroy her son's reputation to cover her crimes? She's already spreading rumors David was unstable, made poor decisions. That's why she expelled you quickly. You're a witness to his state of mind. You know he was competent. Your testimony derails her entire defense. This was never about me being a gold digger. Oh, she genuinely despises you. You're everything she's not. Kind, genuine, actually loved her son. But expelling you was primarily legal protection. David's death was convenient. Your removal was necessary. He pushed the folder closer. Everything's here. Financial records, emails, wire transfers. I've copied files for 2 years. I was going to contact the FBI, but after David died, I got scared. But you're already fighting. Use this. Destroy her before she destroys you and your daughter. Why help me now? Tears filled his eyes. I watched that boy grow up. Birthday parties, graduation, his wedding. I did nothing while his mother murdered him. I can't bring David back. But maybe I can make her pay. Maybe I can protect his daughter. That night, surrounded by documents and evidence in her motel room, Lily had everything. Recordings of Victoria's confession, video evidence of murder conspiracy, financial records proving massive fraud, David's real will. And nothing to lose. She called Elena Rodriguez's office. My name is Lily Whitmore. I have evidence of murder, fraud, and corporate theft involving one of Connecticut's wealthiest families. I can't afford your retainer, but I'll offer 30% of any settlement. This case will make headlines. Elena called back in 20 minutes. I just researched Victoria Whitmore. I've wanted a shot at that family for years. What makes you think you can touch them? Because she thinks I'm nobody, powerless, and she has no idea what's coming. Send everything. If it's half as good as you claim, I'll take it. And Mrs. Whitmore? Yes? We're going to enjoy this. Lily looked around her motel room. Water-stained ceiling, cigarette-burned furniture, hospital bills stacked on the dresser. Her reflection. 7 months pregnant, exhausted. Victoria thought this was rock bottom. Thought she'd stripped everything away, leaving Lily broken. But Victoria forgot something. People with nothing left to lose are the most dangerous enemies. And Lily Chen was about to become a nightmare. Block 2 Complete Character Count. 5,998 characters. Block 3 Secret Preparation. Rising Action. Elena Rodriguez's office occupied the entire 20th floor of a Hartford high-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, and the reception area had actual artwork, not prints. Lily felt acutely aware of her thrift store maternity dress and worn sneakers as she waited. Mrs. Whitmore? A woman in her 40s appeared, sharp suit, sharper eyes. I'm Elena. Come in. The conference room contained a table that could seat 20. Elena spread Lily's evidence across it like a general planning battle strategy. This is remarkable, Elena murmured, reviewing dashcam footage for the third time. You have her dead to rights on the financial fraud. The murder case is circumstantial but compelling. And this will, she tapped David's document, invalidates everything Victoria's trying to pull. She's sitting on a time bomb. So we can win? Win, Lily, we can annihilate her. But it won't be quick or easy. Victoria will fight with everything she has. She hired investigators to dig into your past. She spread vicious rumors. She tried to paint you as mentally unstable, a gold digger, an unfit mother. Can you handle that? Lily thought about the motel room, the medical bills, the way Victoria's eyes had gleamed when calling David the problem. Try me, Elena smiled. Good. Here's the strategy. We file the real will in probate court immediately, which puts Victoria on defense. Simultaneously, we submit your evidence to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. The fraud investigation ties up her assets, prevents her from hiding more money. Then, we go after custody preemptively. We file for a restraining order based on her threats and your recordings. Will that work? It'll shock her. She's expecting you to roll over, maybe file a small wrongful termination suit that she can settle quietly. She's not expecting a coordinated legal assault on multiple fronts. And here's the beautiful part, Elena leaned forward. Once we file the real will, the estate's frozen. She can't access David's money to fight us. She have to use her personal funds, which are about to be seized by the FBI. She has other resources, connections, powerful friends. So do I. Elena pulled out her phone, started texting. I'm calling in every favor I'm owed. Judges who hate corruption. Prosecutors looking to make names taking down old money dynasties. Journalists who'd kill for this story. Victoria thinks she owns Connecticut. We're about to show her she doesn't. The plan took shape over 3 weeks. Elena assembled a team. Forensic accountants who traced Victoria's money. Private investigators who interviewed the mechanic who'd worked on David's car. Expert witnesses who testify about brake line tampering. Meanwhile, Lily had her own mission. I need you to get that key from the estate, Elena said. The safety deposit box David mentioned. Whatever's inside, Victoria doesn't know about it, which means it's valuable. How am I supposed to get into the house? She banned me. Elena smiled. She banned Lily Whitmore. She didn't ban the estate sale appraiser she's hiring next week. Monica's going to recommend you under a different name. You'll have 3 hours inside to find what you need. The next Wednesday, Lily walked back into the Whitmore estate wearing a blonde wig, fake glasses, and professional apparel borrowed from Monica. Her pregnant belly was impossible to hide, but the house staff had completely turned over. Victoria had fired everyone loyal to David and hired new people who'd never met his wife. I'm here to appraise the library, Lily told the housekeeper in a practiced neutral accent. Mrs. Whitmore wants valuations on the rare book collection. 3rd floor, west wing. Don't touch anything you don't have to. David's study looked exactly as he'd left it. His coffee mug still sat on the desk, a bookmark holding his place in the novel he'd been reading. Lily's hands shook as she found East of Eden on the shelf, opened it, and felt along the inside cover. The key was there, taped carefully, just as David had promised. She pocketed it quickly, photographed the bookshelf for her supposed appraisal, and moved through the study with methodical efficiency. She found David's laptop hidden behind a loose panel in the wall, his personal journal tucked inside a hollowed-out law book, and a second flash drive marked insurance taped under his desk drawer. In his journal, David had documented everything. His growing suspicions about his mother, the threats she'd made, the way she'd tried to turn him against Lily. The final entry, written the day before his death, made Lily's breath catch. Mother called me weak today for refusing to divorce Lily. Said the baby would pollute the family bloodline and that I needed to handle the situation or she would. I've hired independent security to check my car. Something's wrong. If anything happens to me, Lily, know that I loved you completely. And Mother did it. Lily photographed every page with trembling hands. She was sliding the journal back into place when she heard footsteps outside the study. Victoria's voice carried down the hallway. I don't care what the appraiser needs. I want this estate liquidated and sold by spring. Every trace of that woman erased from this family. Lily ducked behind the desk, heart hammering. 8 months pregnant and hiding in her dead husband's study while his murderer walked past the door. Victoria's footsteps paused. Is someone in David's study? The appraiser, ma'am. For the books. I specifically said no one was to enter that room. The door opened. Victoria stepped inside, and for one terrible moment, her eyes swept right over Lily's hiding spot. Then the phone rang, and Victoria answered with irritation. What? The FBI wants to schedule what? No, tell them my lawyers will be in touch. No meetings without counsel present. She left, and Lily heard her voice fading down the hall. Apparently some disgruntled former employee filed a complaint. Complete nonsense, but we'll handle it. The FBI was already moving. Elena had filed faster than expected. Lily waited 10 minutes, then slipped out of the study, down the service stairs, and out through the kitchen entrance. She made it to her borrowed car before vomiting from stress in the bushes. But she had what she needed. That night, Elena opened the safety deposit box with Lily and Monica as witnesses. Inside were documents David had meticulously collected, proof of Victoria's fraud going back 15 years, evidence of previous suspicious deaths in the family, including David's father, and a detailed letter to the FBI outlining everything he'd discovered. He was building a case against her, Elena breathed. He was going to turn in his own mother. That's why she killed him, Lily said quietly. He was the only person who could have stopped her. Monica gripped Lily's hand. We'll stop her now. The next morning, Elena filed 6 separate legal actions simultaneously. Probate of David's real will, custody petition for the unborn child, restraining order against Victoria, wrongful death suit, and submission of evidence to both the FBI and Connecticut State Police. By noon, every news outlet in Connecticut had the story. Whitmore dynasty under investigation. Wealthy matriarch accused of son's murder. Pregnant widow fights for justice. Victoria's lawyers held an emergency press conference, calling the accusations baseless and clearly motivated by greed. But their voices lacked conviction. The evidence was too solid, too public. That evening, Lily's phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. You have no idea what you've done. Victoria's voice was venomous. I will destroy you. I will take your child. I will make you wish you died with my son. This call is being recorded, Lily said calmly, and forwarded directly to my lawyer and the police. Thank you for the additional evidence of harassment. She hung up. Elena called 5 minutes later, laughing. She just handed us the restraining order on a silver platter. Judges hate defendants who threaten witnesses. We're going to crush her, Lily. Lily sat in her motel room, 8 months pregnant, surrounded by legal documents and evidence, watching news coverage of Victoria being questioned by FBI agents outside her estate. The woman who'd called her worthless, who'd murdered her son, who'd tried to steal her child, was finally being held accountable. But this wasn't over. The hardest part was still coming. The actual battle in court, the testimony, facing Victoria across a courtroom while proving she'd killed the man they both claimed to love. And Lily needed to be ready because Victoria Whitmore didn't lose gracefully. She lost viciously, and she was about to show Lily exactly how vicious she could be. Block 3 complete character count, 8,750 characters. Let me revise once more. Block 3. Revised. Under 6,000 characters. Elena Rodriguez's office occupied the 20th floor of a Hartford high-rise. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Lily felt acutely aware of her thrift store maternity dress as she waited. Mrs. Whitmore? A woman in her 40s appeared, sharp suit, sharper eyes. I'm Elena. The conference room held a table for 20. Elena spread Lily's evidence like a battle plan. This is remarkable. You have her dead to rights on financial fraud. Murder is circumstantial but compelling. This will. She tapped David's document. Invalidates everything Victoria's attempting. She's sitting on a time bomb. Can we win? Win? We can annihilate her. But it won't be quick. Victoria will fight with everything. She hire investigators, spread vicious rumors, paint you as unstable, an unfit mother. Can you handle that? Lily thought about the motel room, medical bills, Victoria calling David, the problem. Try me. Elena smiled. Here's the strategy. We file the real will immediately, putting Victoria on defense. Simultaneously, we submit evidence to the FBI's Financial Crimes Division. The fraud investigation ties up her assets, prevents hiding more money. Then custody preemptively. Restraining order based on threats and your recordings. Will it work? It'll shock her. She expects you to roll over, maybe file a small suit she can settle quietly. She's not expecting coordinated legal assault on multiple fronts. Here's the beauty. Once we file the real will, the estate freezes. She can't access David's money to fight us. She used personal funds about to be seized by the FBI. She has connections. Powerful friends. So do I. Elena pulled out her phone. I'm calling in every favor. Judges who hate corruption. Prosecutors wanting to make names destroying old money. Journalists who'd kill for this story. Victoria thinks she owns Connecticut. We're about to prove she doesn't. The plan took 3 weeks. Elena assembled forensic accountants. Private investigators who interviewed David's mechanic, expert witnesses on brake line tampering. Meanwhile, Lily had her mission. I need you to get that key from the estate. The safety deposit box David mentioned. Whatever's inside. Victoria doesn't know about it. How? She banned me. Elena smiled. She banned Lily Whitmore. Not the estate sale appraiser she's hiring next week. Monica will recommend you under a different name. 3 hours inside to find what you need. Next Wednesday, Lily walked into the Whitmore estate wearing a blonde wig, fake glasses, professional clothes borrowed from Monica. Her belly was impossible to hide. But Victoria had fired everyone loyal to David. I'm here to appraise the library, Lily told the new housekeeper in a practiced accent. Mrs. Whitmore wants valuations on rare books. 3rd floor, West Wing. Don't touch anything unnecessary. David's study looked exactly as he'd left it. Coffee mug on the desk, bookmark in his novel. Lily found East of Eden, opened it, felt along the inside cover. The key was there. She pocketed it, photographed the bookshelf, moved through methodically. Found David's laptop behind a wall panel, his journal and a hollowed-out law book, a second flash drive marked insurance taped under his desk. In his journal, David documented everything. Suspicions about his mother, threats she made, attempts to turn him against Lily. The final entry, written the day before death. Mother called me weak for refusing to divorce Lily. Said the baby would pollute the family bloodline. That I needed to handle the situation, or she would. I've hired security to check my car. Something's wrong. If anything happens, Lily, know I loved you completely. And Mother did it. Lily photographed every page with trembling hands. She was replacing the journal when footsteps sounded. Victoria's voice in the hallway. I don't care what the appraiser needs. I want this estate liquidated by spring. Every trace of that woman erased. Lily ducked behind the desk, 8 months pregnant, while her husband's murderer walked past. Victoria's footsteps paused. Is someone in David's study? The appraiser, ma'am. For books. I specifically said no one enters that room. The door opened. Victoria stepped inside, eyes sweeping over Lily's hiding spot. Then her phone rang. What? The FBI wants to schedule what? Tell them my lawyers will be in touch. No meetings without counsel. She left. Apparently some disgruntled former employee filed a complaint. Complete nonsense. The FBI was already moving. Lily waited 10 minutes, slipped down service stairs, out through the kitchen. Made it to her borrowed car before vomiting from stress. But she had what she needed. That night, Elena opened the safety deposit box with Lily and Monica as witnesses. Inside, documents David had collected proving Victoria's fraud going back 15 years. Evidence of previous suspicious deaths, including David's father. A detailed letter to the FBI outlining everything. He was building a case, Elena breathed. He was going to turn in his own mother. That's why she killed him, Lily said. He was the only one who could stop her. Monica gripped her hand. We'll stop her now. Next morning, Elena filed 6 simultaneous legal actions. Probate of David's real will, custody petition, restraining order against Victoria, wrongful death suit, evidence submission to FBI and state police. By noon, every Connecticut news outlet had it. Whitmore dynasty under investigation. Wealthy matriarch accused of son's murder. Victoria's lawyers held an emergency press conference, calling accusations baseless, motivated by greed. But their voices lacked conviction. That evening, unknown number. Lily answered. You have no idea what you've done. Victoria's voice was venom. I will destroy you. Take your child. Make you wish you died with my son. This call is being recorded, Lily said calmly. And forwarded to my lawyer and police. Thank you for additional harassment evidence. She hung up. Elena called minutes later, laughing. She just handed us the restraining order. Judges hate defendants threatening witnesses. We're going to crush her. Lily sat in her motel room, 8 months pregnant, surrounded by legal documents, watching news coverage of FBI agents questioning Victoria outside her estate. The woman who'd called her worthless, murdered her son, tried stealing her child, was finally being held accountable. But this wasn't over. The hardest part was coming. The actual courtroom battle. The testimony. Facing Victoria while proving she'd killed the man they both loved. If you're wondering how a pregnant widow in a motel room could take down Connecticut royalty, stay with this story. Because what happened in that courtroom didn't just deliver justice, it rewrote the rules about who gets to win. The courthouse on Church Street had witnessed countless battles, but nothing like this. 3 months after filing, the consolidated hearing brought everything together: estate probate, custody determination, criminal referrals, civil damages. Lily was 9 months pregnant, past her due date. Her doctor advised against the stress, but Elena argued Lily's testimony was crucial. Compromise. Testify first, leave if labor started. Victoria arrived in a black Mercedes, flanked by 4 attorneys. Pearls and navy suit screaming old money respectability. Seeing Lily, her lip curled. Still playing victim, Victoria said loud enough for reporters. Dragging my son's name through mud because you couldn't handle being cut off. Elena stepped between them. Mrs. Whitmore Sr., you're violating the restraining order. Maintain distance or bailiffs enforce it. Victoria's lawyers pulled her away, but she'd accomplished her goal. A sound bite for evening news. The grieving mother defending her son against a gold digger. Judge Patricia Morrison presided, a no-nonsense woman who despised entitled defendants. She reviewed the evidence list. This is extensive. We're looking at a week minimum. Victoria's lead attorney Charles Worthington stood. Your Honor, we'd like to file a motion to dismiss, denied. I've reviewed your motions. All 4, creative but unpersuasive. We're proceeding. Lily took the stand first. Elena had coached extensively. Stay calm, stick to facts, let evidence speak. Please tell the court about the day you were expelled. Lily recounted everything. Then Elena played the recording. 43 minutes of Victoria's voice admitting her plans. You trapped my son. You have no claim. Once that baby is born, we'll see what courts say about proper guardianship. The courtroom silenced except for Victoria's recorded voice. Jurors leaned forward. Judge Morrison's expression darkened. Worthington cross-examined aggressively. Isn't it true you married David knowing he was wealthy? I married him because I loved him. But you benefited financially from that love? I quit my job at his request to focus on family. Our mutual decision. The aggressive approach backfired. The jury watched him badger a pregnant widow, expression shifting to sympathetic. Day 2 brought financial experts. Forensic accountant Maria Santos walked the jury through 15 years of embezzlement. Charts showed money flowing into shell companies, then Victoria's offshore accounts. In total, Mrs. Whitmore Sr. diverted approximately $160 million. The business is effectively bankrupt. Victoria's face remained impassive, but her knuckles whitened. Day 3. The mechanic, Tommy Reeves, granted immunity for testimony. Mrs. Whitmore paid me $50,000 cash to make Mr. David's brake lines fail gradually. She said it needed to look like equipment failure, not sabotage. Did she specify when? During his regular Hartford drives. The route had a steep descent on Route 44. If the brakes went there, Elena entered dashcam footage. The jury watched Victoria in the garage doorway while Tommy worked, watched her nod, watched her hand him an envelope. Victoria's lawyers fought back. Character witnesses praised her business acumen. Psychologists testified Lily showed manipulative personality traits. They argued footage was circumstantial. But day 5, Elena played her final card, David's video testimony. Before death, David had recorded himself reading his will, explaining wishes and fears. The jury watched a healthy, articulate man describe his mother's controlling behavior, threats, concerns for his wife's safety.
I love my mother, but I'm not blind to what she's become.
If something happens and she tries cutting Lily out, don't let her. Lily is my wife, my partner, my choice. The video ended. The courtroom silenced except for muffled crying from jurors. Victoria's mask cracked.
That's not, he didn't understand I was protecting him.
Please control your client, Judge Morrison warned. Victoria stood, pointing at Lily. She manipulated my son. Got pregnant on purpose. Everything I did was to save him from her. Save him? Lily stood, Elena trying to pull her down. You killed him. You killed him. You paid someone to destroy his brakes because he chose me over your control. Order! Judge Morrison's gavel cracked. Both parties sit. Security moved forward. The damage was done. Victoria's outburst captured by court reporters and media. Judge Morrison called recess. 20 minutes later, Worthington's face was gray. Your Honor, my client would like to discuss settlement. Elena stood. We're not interested. We want a verdict. Judge Morrison looked at Victoria. You understand if we continue and the jury finds against you? Consequences could include criminal referral, complete asset loss, permanent custody loss. Victoria's voice barely audible. I understand. Closing arguments tomorrow. That evening, Lily's water broke. Monica rushed her to Hartford Hospital. 8 hours later, a healthy baby girl. She named her Claire, after David's grandmother, the only Whitmore who'd shown genuine kindness. Elena brought news to court. Judge Morrison ordered 2-day delay for recovery but allowed proceedings to continue. The jury deliberated 6 hours. Lily listened over speakerphone from her hospital bed, Claire sleeping in her arms. In the matter of David Whitmore's estate, we find in favor of petitioner Lily Whitmore. David Whitmore's independent will is valid. In custody, we find Victoria Whitmore poses clear danger to the minor child. Permanent supervised visitation only. In civil damages, we award Lily Whitmore $45 million for wrongful death and emotional distress. In criminal referral, we recommend prosecution pursue charges of fraud, conspiracy to commit murder, and embezzlement. Victoria's scream carried through the line. This isn't over. I'll appeal. I'll fight until... Mrs. Whitmore, you're in contempt. Bailiff, escort her to holding. The line quieted except for struggle sounds, Victoria shouting threats as she was removed. Elena arrived at the hospital an hour later, champagne for herself, sparkling cider for Lily. It's done. She's finished. FBI formally arrested her on federal fraud charges. She fight criminal prosecution while assets are seized. Lily looked at Claire, this tiny perfect human who'd never know her father, but would grow up knowing he'd loved her. Enough to protect her even after death. What happens to Whitmore Industries? Restructuring and sale. As David's heir, you control his majority stake. Liquidate and take proceeds or rebuild it properly. Monica entered carrying flowers. Reporters everywhere. They want statements, interviews. This story's going national. Let them wait. Lily said. She was tired, sore, overwhelmed, but also victorious. The woman who'd called her worthless, murdered her husband, threatened her child, was now in a holding cell while Lily held her daughter in a private room, surrounded by people who loved her. Stay with this story to see what happens when someone who lost everything builds something even Victoria's empire could never touch. 2 years later, Lily stood in the renovated headquarters of what was now Whitmore Chen Industries. The corruption had been stripped away, the company rebuilt with ethical leadership and transparent practices. The manufacturing business now specialized in sustainable products, employed twice as many workers, and donated 10% of profits to domestic abuse prevention. Claire toddled around the office clutching her stuffed elephant, occasionally helping by pressing random copy machine buttons. She had David's eyes and his gentle smile, but Lily's determination. "Boss, you've got a visitor," Monica called from reception. Now Chief Operating Officer, having left her father's firm to help rebuild. "Says it's important." Richard Chen looked healthier than he had in years. He testified against Victoria at her criminal trial, finally unburdening himself of decades of complicity. "I wanted you to see this." He handed over a newspaper. Victoria Whitmore sentenced to 15 years for fraud and conspiracy. Lily scanned the article. Convicted on all counts. Appeals failed. Offshore accounts seized, mansion sold at auction, social standing demolished. She'd be 77 when released, with nothing waiting except obscurity. "How do you feel?" Richard asked, relieved, sad, angry that Claire will never know her father because of that woman's ego. Lily set down the paper. "But mostly grateful I survived to raise her." "You did more than survive. You transformed everything." It was true. The settlement money, combined with restructured company profits, meant financial security forever. But more importantly, she'd used her platform advocating for other women in similar situations. She'd funded legal clinics, domestic violence shelters, financial literacy programs. The nonprofit she'd worked for before marriage hired her back as executive director. "You understand struggle now." Not from theory but from living it. Elena stopped by that afternoon as she often did. They'd become genuine friends during the legal battle. "I have news." Tommy Reeves completed his plea deal. He's speaking at community colleges about his choices, warning young people about consequences of putting money over conscience. Good, he took responsibility. More than Victoria ever did. Speaking of which, she's requested a meeting. Says she wants to see her granddaughter. Lily's jaw tightened. "Absolutely not. That's what I told her lawyer." "She's written you a letter though. Being reviewed for threats. Do you want to see it?" "No, she doesn't get to poison my peace. She doesn't get access to Claire. She made her choices, now she lives with them." Elena nodded. "Good. Some people think forgiveness means letting abusers back in. It doesn't. Forgiveness is freeing yourself from their power, not giving them more opportunities to hurt you." That evening, Lily took Claire to the park where she and David had walked when first pregnant, dreaming about their future. "Your daddy would be so proud of you," Lily whispered, pushing Claire on the swings. "And so proud of what we built from the ashes." Claire giggled, kicking her feet higher. Lily's phone buzzed. A journalist requesting an interview for a documentary about women who'd fought powerful families and won. A law student asking if Lily would speak at their Women's Law Society event. A domestic violence shelter thanking her for the anonymous donation that kept them operational. She'd become someone who mattered, not because of who she'd married, but because of what she'd survived and what she'd chosen to do with that survival. That night, putting Claire to bed, Lily read from a children's book about courage. Claire's eyes grew heavy, and just before sleep, she mumbled, "Mama's strong." "Yes, baby. Mama's strong. And you're going to be strong too." After Claire slept, Lily sat on the balcony of the comfortable but not extravagant apartment she'd chosen instead of buying a mansion. The city lights sparkled below, and somewhere in those lights, Victoria sat in a prison cell, stripped of everything she'd valued. Lily didn't feel triumphant about Victoria's imprisonment. She felt relieved, validated, free. The woman who'd tried to erase her had been erased instead. The empire built on cruelty had fallen. The heir deemed worthless had proven invaluable. And most importantly, Claire would grow up knowing her mother had fought for her, refused to be silenced, turned powerlessness into power. The best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building a life so fulfilling, so meaningful, so successful that their attempts to destroy you become nothing but a sad chapter in your origin story. Victoria tried to write Lily's ending. Instead, Lily wrote her own beginning. She'd lost a husband she loved deeply. She'd been stripped of security, dignity, safety. She'd been pregnant, homeless, targeted by one of Connecticut's most powerful families. But she documented everything, found allies, stayed strategic when emotions screamed for immediate action. Let the evidence speak louder than pain. And she'd won not just legally, but morally. Now 2 years later, Lily Chen Whitmore ran a multi-million-dollar company ethically, raised a healthy daughter lovingly, and helped countless women find strength to fight back against their own Victorias. The quiet girl from nowhere had become someone who changed the conversation about power, justice, and what happens when you underestimate someone with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Victoria had asked, "What are you going to do?" when she trapped Lily with pregnancy, poverty, and powerlessness. Lily had answered with evidence, strategy, and unwavering determination. That answer cost Victoria everything and gave Lily something more valuable than any inheritance. Knowledge that she could survive anything, overcome anyone, and build something beautiful from the wreckage of someone else's cruelty. Claire stirred in her crib, and Lily checked on her daughter. This little girl would never know a world where her mother accepted defeat. She'd grow up watching a woman who turned the worst moments into the foundation of something unbreakable. That was the legacy David had really left. Not money or property, but the expectation that their daughter would be raised by someone strong enough to fight dragons, win wars, and still tuck her in gently each night. The weak don't survive fairy tales, but the strategic, the documented, the patient, and the determined, they rewrite the endings. If you found yourself inspired by how one woman transformed from victim to victor, share this story. Because somewhere, someone needs to know that being underestimated is sometimes the greatest advantage. Subscribe to hear more stories about ordinary people who refuse to let powerful enemies write their final chapters. The most dangerous thing you can do to someone trying to destroy you is survive, thrive, and prove them wrong. Victoria Whitmore learned that lesson too late. Lily Chen had known it all along.